Tennessee This Week from WATE's 6 on Your Side starts now.
The Republican candidate for governor busy making the rounds, hitting every county in our state before Election Day. We are sitting down with Bill Lee. A cleanup effort for a homeless camp, the effort to help a place that's been a growing eyesore in our city. And just a few weeks into his administration, a dust-up between Mayor Glenn Jacobs and County Commission. All of that coming up on Tennessee This Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tennessee This Week. I'm Kristen Farley. Election Day is getting closer, and already a lot of Tennesseans are voting early. It is a high-interest election, and one of the races we are watching closely for you, everyone, is the governor's race. With Bill Haslam's term ending, you have Democrat Carl Dean and Republican Bill Lee hoping to be the next leader of our state. Now, we spoke with Carl Dean a few weeks ago. Today, it is time to hear from Bill Lee. He's here in the studio with us. Bill, always good to see you.
Thank you, Kristen. Glad to be here.
Let's go ahead and start with, you have been a very busy man. We've been talking about your tour of all 95 counties. I know you still have a few more to go before Election Day.
That's right.
But we've seen you at a lot of high-profile events also up in Johnson City. President Trump visiting the area. You've been on the stage with Marsha Blackburn. A lot of voters want to know, how closely do your values and positions align with Blackburn and President Trump?
You know, I have traveled all over the state and talked to people from one end of the state to the other. And I really believe that what matters to every Tennessean is that they have a good job and a good school for their kid and a safe neighborhood. Those are the things, those are the principles and the values that I'm going to, and the issues that I'm going to focus on as governor, because I think those are the things that matter most to Tennesseans.
If you were in a position where you were kind of butting heads with possibly President Trump or Marsha Blackburn, would you be willing to kind of go to task over this and to hold your ground on an issue? You
know, I think butting heads is probably not the right term, at least from my style of leadership. I'm more likely to sit down and come together. I believe that there's real value, and this country longs for leadership that brings people together. And even when we have differences of opinion, whoever that might be, across the state, I look forward to working with people to bring real solutions.
You just spoke of your leadership style and your campaign style, very much like that as well. You refuse to get involved in mudslinging during the primaries. Now during the generals, some people are saying you and your opponent, Carl Dean, friendly campaigns, if you will, and that they're having trouble finding distinctions between the two of you. What is the biggest distinction?
You know, I appreciate the idea of running positive campaigns and of working together. I think that one of the strengths of my leadership is that I'm coming from outside government, and that not being a politician, not having ever run for office, is a strength, because I really think our founders envisioned a country where people come from outside government. It's a government of the people, and people from the private sector engage and bring private sector solutions and nonprofit passion to government, and that's one of the strengths of our campaign.
Is that one of the questions you get asked so much, is that you don't have a political experience? How is that going to help or hurt you? Because I hear so many people bring that up.
Yeah. What I do have is a life of executive experience. As an executive leader, running a $250 million corporation, being the chair of one of the largest nonprofits in the state, or presiding over one of the largest construction industry organizations in the state. I've had a life of executive leadership. This is the executive branch of government that I am pursuing. The governor is the head of the executive branch. So I think that experience is going to be very helpful for me going forward.
You know, during your final debate, one of the questions that we asked you was if you were willing to bring someone from the other party onto your team, and you said that's something you would consider. Do you have any particular positions or people in mind that you might want to name?
You know, what I have in mind is November the 6th, and I have counties to get to and a campaign to run to make certain that we win. When that date gets behind us, if I'm fortunate enough to be the governor-elect, then we start talking about.
Then I can ask you then.
Then you can ask me that question.
I just had to try one more time.
No,
just have to try. All right, let's talk about UT's relationship with the legislature here in Tennessee. It has been strained. Some people might even call it contentious at times, talking about Sex Week here on campus in Knoxville, as well as the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. There's been a lot of shakeups. When do you think it is appropriate for lawmakers from Nashville to get involved with what's going on here at UT?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that we know is that the University of Tennessee is the flagship institution of higher learning in this state. It's a really important part of who we are, and it's important that we work together to make sure that it's leading in a way that it should be. And I've just recently sat down and met with Randy Boyd, who is the new interim president of the university, and we talked about opportunities to work together and how we can advance this state in every way, including higher education. So I look forward to working with the university to advance higher education across Tennessee.
Well, let's talk about health care. Definitely keeps coming up as one of the most important issues to voters here in Tennessee, probably all across our country as well. And in that debate, both you and your opponent were pressed about your plans for changing health care in our state. How quickly do you think you can change our health care system realistically?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people who are still struggling out there right now.
That's right. I believe that every Tennessean deserves to have access to quality health care that they can afford. And from my perspective, the key word in there is afford, and it is the rising costs of health care are at an unsustainable pace. They're outpacing inflation at such a rate that there's an ever-expanding number of people that can't afford it. So I believe from day one we can immediately begin to bring about changes that will first lower the cost of health care. If we want people to be able to have coverage, then they have to be able to afford it. And if they're going to afford it, then we have to work to lower the cost of health care. And there are a number of things that we can do starting from day one.
What has the state done wrong in trying to find these solutions? Because we just haven't been able to get anywhere over the last few years.
Yeah, I don't know that we've done anything wrong, but what I want to do is bring together all the players, patients, providers, payers. I've met with healthcare officials for months now on all three of those sectors to bring them together to the table. We have the brilliant minds in healthcare in this state. We're uniquely qualified because of our assets that we have here. We're a healthcare hub for the world, really. So I think we can develop a plan in Tennessee that will actually show other states how to do it. I've talked about Tennessee leading the nation, and healthcare is a way we can do that.
Time frame? How quickly do you think we can turn something like this around?
Well, it won't be an immediate turnaround, certainly not, but we can immediately begin to take steps that will start that turn. We've gone many, many years digging ourselves into this hole. We can start from day one to begin to dig ourselves out of it.
Speaking of day one, what would be maybe your other priority? If you were to get into office, what would be that one thing you want to tackle from day one?
You know, I've said people want a good job, a good school for their kid, a safe neighborhood. Good schools, to me, in part mean that an education that fits everyone. And right now, as an employer of 1,200 folks, mostly skilled tradespeople, I think we have neglected vocational and technical education for decades. I actually started a trade school in my company 10 years ago and have put 1,000 through that. Trade training, we need to do that in high schools all across Tennessee, and that'll be something I want to focus on starting from day one.
A lot of people are interested in that.
That's right.
All right, Mr. Lee, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks
we appreciate
so much.
it.
Glad to be here.
All right, everyone, we do want to remind you one more time, Republican Bill Lee facing Democrat Carl Dean in the race for Tennessee governor. We'll keep watching this as the campaigns head into Election Day. Again, it's right around the corner. Still to come, everyone, our panel of pundits is coming your way next. Stay with us. You're watching Tennessee This Week on WATE 6 on your side.